Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. More calls for restructuring of Nigeria as former governors Balarabe Musa and Segun Mimiko back practice of true federalism. Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps arrests 14 suspected transporter human traffickers in rivers. The federal government begins investigation into the power surge that killed 2 persons in Minna, Niger State. And the United Nations Security Council backs fresh sanctions against North Korea over its missile program. For more on our top stories and others, please visit our website. It's channelstv.com and on youtube.com/channelsweb, where you can find our videos. Log on to m.channelstv.com to watch us on your mobile device, or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows devices from their respective stores. The Channels TV and Channels 24 apps will give you access to news and updates. You also have access to the eyewitness feature, which you can use to share those pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the menu and follow the instructions. And these are some of the pictures that you sent to our eyewitness portal. And first is this picture from Obalande Imodi, Mosan Road in Ijebu-Ode in Ogun State, showing a flooded road. Our eyewitness reporter describes it as dangerous for motorists. Next is this one from Wharf Road in Kaduna State, showing cows obstructing vehicles on a major road in the city. Our eyewitness reporter wants government agencies responsible for this to stop open grazing. An exposed manhole, our eyewitness reporter says, it's a death trap. Our eyewitness reporter maintains that this may cause a fatal accident if left unattended to. He's therefore calling on the relevant government agencies to fix it. And our final image is from Ekiaoka Market in Anambra State, showing smoke from a generator and heap of refuse. Our eyewitness reporter wants the state government's protection agency to do something fast about this. We do sincerely thank you for sending in those pictures, as we ask that you keep them coming. The federal government has commenced investigation into the power surge that led to the death of 2 persons of Sabon Nasarawa in Minna, Niger State. The Executive Director, Technical Services, Nigeria Emergency Management Services Agency, NEMSA, Tukur Gidado, who was in Minna to also condole with the families of those who lost their lives in the incident, said that the government would get to the root of the matter.
It was a tragedy that sent shockwaves across Sabon Nasarawa community in Chanchaga local government area of Niger State. It's a power surge that resulted in the death of 2 persons and damage to numerous electrical appliances in the homes affected. The federal government is responding, and the Executive Director, Technical Services, Nigeria Emergency Management Services Agency, NEMSA, Tukur Gidado, is here in Minna on a fact-finding mission.
It has a route from the substation or from the source of the supply into the houses. So most of the people who died as a result, it is in their houses. The wiring in the house is the touch that gave them shock, which means that there is excessive flow of electric current into their house beyond what the normal LV low voltage level.
He says he is in Minna on the directive of the Minister of Power, Babatunde Fashola, to show the concern of the federal government on the matter and gives assurance of measures being put in place to avert future occurrences.
After I've gone around, what I have seen is that there is need for a maintenance of the network in the area and put it into proper shape. So this, I think that we need to awaken the distribution company to take up their responsibility and do proper maintenance wherever you are. And the community has responsibility also to report immediately. So this thing is happening now. Please come and fix it so that we don't have any accident.
The Community District Head of Sabon Nasarawa, Malam Danladi Majidadi, appears not to have gotten over the unfortunate incident. With the assurances from the federal government following the visit of the representative of the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, the people of Sabon Nasarawa may rest assured that a permanent solution will be provided to avert a recurrence of this ugly incident.
The federal government has ordered the immediate repair of the Calabar-Dupani highway, which has a portion on the verge of collapse. But this follows complications and complaints from residents of Cross River State and commuters along that particular route, and their lives, they say, is in danger. Their plight was reached and re-echoed here on Channels Television earlier this week. The Minister of Works, Power and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, has promised that the road will be fixed in 3 months.
This is the emergency alternative route being created for commuters of the Calabar-Dupani Federal Highway. Work began here less than 48 hours after the plight of motorists was heard loud and clear in Abuja, the seat of the federal government, for something to be done to save the Calabar-Dupani Federal Highway from total collapse. This federal highway is the only entry and exit route for Calabar, the Cross River State capital. Remedial work on the main road is now in progress. Any further delay, according to the residents, would have been the end of the road and the end of the journey for many trying to get to other parts of the country. The alternative route, according to the authorities, will soon be declared safe for use for the next 3 months.
We are trying to create a diversion. This road is a single carriageway, and we have to walk there now. And we cannot walk there with the kind of traffic that is plying the road. So we have to create an alternative road. That's why we're creating this diversion. In a few days' time, we'll finish this diversion. We'll now divert traffic to that side so that we can concentrate and do the job at the washout.
Contractors handling the repair work gave an assurance of quality.
With clement weather, we should be able to finish the work and then reinstate the culvert that is failed. Then they can now go back and start using the road.
Cross Riverians and visitors passing through this route are grateful for the prompt response. They also look forward to a more standard federal highway.
Last week, the Nigerian Senate passed a bill seeking to amend the Compulsory Free Universal Education Act of 2004. The bill seeks to provide free and compulsory education for all Nigerian children from primary up to secondary school level. It will also see to the increment of the budgetary allocations to the Universal Basic Education Commission from 2% to 3%. The review became necessary because of the inability of many states to access the Universal Basic Education Commission grants, owing to their inability to contribute 50% counterpart funds to the cost of projects before execution. Now let's look at the merits of the passage of this bill by the Senate and the state of education in Nigeria. Recent statistics from the United Nations shows that Nigeria has the highest population of out-of-school children in Africa, put at 10.5 million. The most vulnerable are children under 15, and they account for 45% of the country's population. A greater percentage of this population of children are in northern Nigeria. They are children between ages 6 to 11 and do not attend any primary school. The United Nations recommends that 26% of a country's annual budget should be allocated to education, but Nigeria has fallen short of the recommendations. In 2017, for instance, only 6% of the annual budget is allocated to education, while in 2016, 6.1% of the budget was allocated and 10% in 2015. Some of the challenges affecting primary and secondary school education in Nigeria include, but not limited to, problems of inadequate teachers, poor infrastructure, and poor implementation of primary school objectives, among others. Now, the big question is, will these problems be solved even with the amendment of the Universal Basic Education Commission bill? Now, to answer this question, I'm being joined on the news at 10 by a communication strategist on education, Moturayo, I beg your pardon, Moturayo Alaka. I want to thank you so much indeed for coming on the news at 10.
Thank you.
Now, the figures of out-of-school children in Nigeria is staggering, I would say, but how would you describe the situation as someone who has interfaced with the universal budget at the universal basic education level?
Well, clearly what we have on our hands is a crisis situation. Like you rightly said, we have the highest out-of-school children when you look at the age of less than 15. Globally, if you look at other demographics, we are actually 10th on the list. But when you look at the less than 15-year-old children, and that is the age of basic education, we have the highest in the world. And it is like, really, we have a future, there's a red alert on our future, because those are the future of the country. If most of the future of the country are not getting the necessary equipment to be able to face that future, to be able to build the future, then we are in big trouble. And not just for education, because if the children are not educated, then definitely it will show in all areas of our lives. It will show in the crime that we have on our streets. It will show in the value that they are able to pass on even to the generation after them. Perhaps the generation after them would be worse than them then. So really we are in a crisis situation, and it's a red alert situation.
But it is a good news that the Senate is trying to amend this. But the question will be again that how far can this proposed budget, or shall I say amendment by the Senate, how far can it go, looking at how well it is looking to begin to fund the education sector? Well,
it will be important to clarify the fact that the main thing about the amendments that the Senate is doing is the increase from 2% to 3% in what is available to you back directly to spend. However, and on the whole, I do not see it making an extremely significant impact, because our problem, yes, it's partly funds, but it's more than funds. It's a function of strategy, the function of vision. As a country, what do we want to achieve with our children? Do we have a vision for the educational system? Do we have a vision as a country? How do these children link into the vision of that country? So basically, it is a strategy and vision challenge that we have as a country, more than a finance challenge. Because even the states that have been able to take the funds that they should take to develop education, what have they done with the funds? It's one thing to access the fund. It's another thing to ask the question, did the funds achieve the impacts they are supposed to achieve?
But if you're looking at that and then looking at how funding affects this education system that we're looking at, and then we have the North, for instance, that is largely adjudged the most backward in education in the country. Will this amendment and funding address that issue? Say, for instance, the Almajiri schools that we're looking at there.
Okay, so it could help. To have more money to spend on the children would help. The question I still ask is, will the money eventually get to the children? And will it impact the system? If it's just throwing money at things, we might not be able to achieve what we want to achieve. But if we're strategic about the increment, we're strategic about how it affects the lives of those children, how it improves education indeed, then perhaps we would get some marginal thing out of it. And as you mentioned, 26% of national budget supposed to be spent on education. We're spending 6%. We've increased the direct funding to UBEC from 2% to 3%. How serious does it show us as a country?
I want to thank you so much indeed, communication strategist on education, Moturayo Alaka, for talking to us more on the impact analysis of the funding that has been expected from the Senate. And when the news at 10 returns, Nigeria's interbank lending rate surges to 23% as central bank tightens liquidity in financial systems. That's on Business News. Join us again.